The hardest part of the conversation is to sort of remove who we've known these QBs to be. Like, you mentioned Matt Stafford, and I get it. I think that there are people that go, oh, Stafford, like Super Bowl champion, perennial fantasy football level, top 12 QB statistically, all of those things.
Undefeated QB.
Right. I look at Stafford and I go, okay, you're looking at a back injury issue in recent years. You're looking at a guy who has often led the league in interceptions when he's playing over the last 2-3 years. You're looking at a guy that the 49ers themselves have loved to play against, quite frankly, obviously outside of the NFC title game a few years ago.
Too soon.
But even that one, right? Could it have been different if another Stafford interception had been held on to? Sure, it could be, but that's coulda, shoulda, woulda. I look at that, and to me, right now, in this moment, age, health, it's like forget the resume. Of course, Matt Stafford's got a better resume than Brock Purdy. But I would completely take Brock Purdy over Matt Stafford right now to quarterback this football team.
Interesting the way you look at it and the way that any of us looks at it. And the only year in which he led the league in interceptions was the year they won the Super Bowl. Just as a statistical sidelight.
That is interesting.
I just Googled it. He had 17 picks in 2021, and they won the Super Bowl that year. And I do think that this conversation is a tough one because you have to think about it in terms of the system and the situation, because last year Matthew Stafford was injured and they were not very good. And so his numbers, I think, suffer as a result. Yeah,
I do
Captain
think.
Index?
Well, I think
you're waving your finger at me. You're waggling.
I think an important note. You talk about he led the league in interceptions when they won the Super Bowl.
Right.
I do think he was leading the league in interceptions when he got hurt and left last year also. So obviously he didn't play again, but his interception rate as a Ram has been very, very high. So anyway, that's kind of where my thinking was. But yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, interception rate based on attempt, it's 2.4, which was lower than what it was when he was in Detroit. Well, that's when his interception rate was really high.
Look, he started 9 games last year, and he was at 10 TDs and 8 picks.
Yep.
That ain't good.
No, 2.6 was slightly above his career average. Uh-huh. It's not great, but when you throw a lot of passes because your team's not good and you have to throw it and you have no running game, and the Rams don't have much of a running game, and I'm not going to sit here and spend my whole show defending Matt Stafford. I do think that he's a borderline case, but in terms of this conversation, you do have to look at the quarterback based on their situation. That, to me, is a big part of it. Could Matthew Stafford, as broken down as he may be, could he come to the Niners and be a better version of himself with this team than he is with the Rams? Absolutely.
Maybe. I mean...
Oh, I have no doubt.
Well, and in theory, I guess you could make that case for, I'm not going to say anybody. Right. Not all offenses.
Kirk Cousins is a great example.
I think for sure he could.
Right.
I think for sure he would. I think that is true for most quarterbacks. So I'll acknowledge that. I just think what's underrated is when we do look at the way this 49er offense is humming, the idea that any of these really good quarterbacks, it's like, okay, they just come in and you run this offense and there's just these openings it really diminishes the ad lib that we watch Brock do. To me, that's something that gets lost in our discussion a lot about Brock Purdy. We go, oh, he's running an offense with great players around him, so he just drops back and they're just all sitting there, and he just throws them the ball. And it's like, that's not what the game looked like. The game didn't look like that at all. The guy's ad-libbing. He's buying time. He's running. He's improvising. He's delivering on a dime at times. There's a great video of the All-22. You should watch one of his over-the-middle passes to Brandon Ayuk early in the game where T.J. Watt gets loose and is coming straight up the gut.
He held it as long as he could.
And he held it, and he delivered an absolute dart. He didn't do what Jimmy would have done, for example. So there are other good quarterbacks in this league who I don't think can make some of the plays that Brock has made. There are obviously others who can make plays that Brock can't, right? He's not going to zing the ball 65 yards down the field like Mahomes could. But that is absolutely my take right now. We underrate the specific things that Brock is doing in this offense rather than just looking at, hey, he's got good players on his team.
I don't think we underrate it. I think at times we overrate the amount of impromptu plays he makes, and especially in the Pittsburgh game where, everyone wants to talk about his reverse pirouette where he deked the defender and he ultimately made a great throw that Debo turned into a great catch because
really great catch.
And he threw it where he had to make sure that it was not going to be picked off, and Debo made the adjustment and made the catch. And so, great impromptu play, great adjustment from Brock Purdy, knowing that the free rusher was coming from his left side, and he waited just long enough and spun away and bought time. He does a lot of amazing things with his legs. He didn't really have to too much on Sunday, but the plays that he did make were impressive.
Streaming live on YouTube as always, and we love our chat and our viewers and our listenership there, all of it. You can join in on the party that's over there, and it really is that. It's one of the things that's been fun, especially after our summits with the Warriors and the 49ers, is not just getting to meet a lot of you who are on the YouTube chat every day, but watching all of you with each other.
Right.
It's like they got it right. Everybody got their own little fraternity that's getting started.
It's a family.
It is.
No doubt.
And you watch it. And so that's really fun to watch. So you can be a part of that. Go to youtube.com/957 the game. Watch us live. Look at Dibs. Just stare him right in the eye and see what you think. See if he's full of it.
I shaved today.
You did?
Yeah, a little bit. I get a little bit of the neck action.
Oh, I was going to say, your beard still looks like it's right there on your face.
Trimmed it a little bit.
Okay.
Did the neck, and this is probably too much information, but it's kind of what I do. But as I'm shaving, you do like the turn to make sure you're getting behind the ear, and I looked. I got some back hair issues.
Oh.
What do you do to contain your back hair? Because I'm sure you've got some... based on your...
I cannot confirm or deny.
Based on your forearms, that thing's got to be a forest back there.
I can't see back there. I don't know.
What is going on here?
We're going to have
Whatever, Grandy. Sometimes we got to keep it real.
Next time you talk to Christy, you can ask her what's going on back there.
Will.
I don't know what's going on back there. And even if I did,
I asked Supper
I ain't telling you.
Hey, Supper, would you mind shaving my back?
Oh, God.
You know what the response was? Ew!
Kind of the same response
totally.
I'm having right now.
Sorry about that.
How did we get here?
I can show you.
Good
That's
Lord.
stupid. Don't say that again.
All right, so once again, go to YouTube.
I'll show Grandy.
Dibs is showing his back hair right now. Let's go to the phones. Junior in San Jose. You're on with Willie and back hair. What's going on? What are you doing?
Hey, just to chime in a little bit on that little part right there. It's funny because, I have 4 kids at home, and they know me since their younger age. They're like, who's it going to be? No, you're getting Dad's back, because I actually have them go back there and hit it with the clippers first. And, I might have to shave a few places there and there. As you get a little older, you get a few hairs more than you want at times,
Junior, you got to maintain,
Junior,
man. You got to
Mama
maintain.
used to say.
However, you just get it done, okay?
Yeah, for sure. Hey, guys, just to chime in a little bit about Brock Purdy, he's got great quarterback presence. When he's in the pocket, he does maneuver himself out, and he needs to do just what it is. Our biggest thing right now is we have to learn how to protect him. We can't be letting J.J. Watt come in and take those type of hits because he's not going to last for the long term. But you also have to look, too, at his QBR rating. He's led it both years in a row. He's leading it right now. If you're telling me top 15, I'm looking at top 10. I would definitely take him over Stafford or Cousins. Those guys have shown that they're great. They're guys that are in the pocket, but we can pressure on them, they can't perform well. They're not able to get outside the pocket, maneuver, get away from the pass rushes. So if you're looking at me, he's definitely in my top 10. I can go down a list and tell you who I'd pick over him. Obviously, you know who Mahomes is going to be at. But for Purdy, he does just exactly what you need to do, and he's not going to turn the ball over. That's something that you're looking forward, moving forward. Offensive-wise, he's very lucky because he's got CMC, who is every quarterback's love of their lives, because that guy's always going to be there. If there's nothing downfield, he knows he can get the ball to him. He's going to catch it anywhere. He's going to make that 3 or 4 turn to 10 to 15 to 20. But overall, I'm going to pick him every time. There's a big difference between him and Jimmy. Jimmy, I think, overall lost his confidence. And it's unfortunate, but I think Shanahan's that kind of guy, we'll see how Jimmy does over there, across the way. But, when it comes to quarterbacks, this guy does what he's supposed to do. But he was 4 years in college, so he's got those intangibles. He understands what he needs to be doing.
Yeah, Junior, he's definitely elevated over Jimmy. Junior, it's a good call. Thank you very much. I don't know any 49er fan after what we've watched the last 9 games who would argue that Jimmy Garoppolo should be there over Brock Purdy, or that it hasn't been elevated. To me, the debatables. There's I had the 7 that I would put ahead of Brock still, but the debatables are Stafford, Dak Prescott, Tua, Deshaun Watson, and gosh, was there one more?
Stafford. Did you say Stafford?
I mentioned Stafford. I think that
Cousins.
Cousins.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you want to throw Jared Goff into this conversation, or is that an easy one?
Well, it just depends. And this is where I think this whole conversation needs to be a little bit more nuanced, as I borrow from Matt Steinmetz and his favorite word, because Jared Goff now versus Jared Goff in L.A., they're two different people. And was it L.A., was it a situation where he wasn't ready to be a better quarterback, or now they have more weaponry and he's developed into a better quarterback? It's hard really to take a quarterback out of their situation and make a determination based on, new information, because Jared Goff right now in Detroit with his team, with the weapons they have, he's a far better quarterback.
Buddy, listen to this.
Pal.
Yeah, Chieftain, since he joined the Lions at age 27, Jared Goff, in now a total of 32 starts for the Lions, has thrown 15 picks. That's it.
Yeah.
So
how about in L.A.? Because it was about the same sample. It was a little bit more.
He averaged about 15 a year almost.
He averaged about a pick a game.
I mean,
right?
early on, first year, he only plays in 7 games, but he takes over as the starter in 2017. Only 7 picks that year, but the following year, 12. The year after that, 16. The year after that, 13. So somewhere,
48 and about 58 starts.
And in Detroit, it's exactly. I mean, it's less than a pick every 2 games.
Right.
So he has definitely upped his ability to avoid the turnover. Is he dynamic? Maybe not, but he's smart, and he's definitely going to have well more. I mean, this was 19 touchdowns in 2021, 29 last year against just 7 picks.
Yeah.
That's very good quarterbacking. It's very, very good quarterbacking. And as we all know, over the last 10 weeks of the season last year, they only lost twice. It's a good football team, right. And I do think that we're going to end up in the NFC this year talking about 4 teams rather than just 3. Everybody knew to talk about the Niners, the Eagles, and the Cowboys. I very much think this is going to be those 3 teams and the Lions when the landscape really starts to figure itself out.
Thinks Green Bay will also be in there. Jordan Love looked good, and because Steiny asked him who his surprise team would be in the NFC, and Guru said Green Bay, and I thought that was interesting because it doesn't feel like it'll be the Giants. The Giants with a tough little 2-game road trip coming up. They should beat Arizona, but then they have a short week here against the Niners and a home opener. That's not going to be too pretty. So you could look at the Giants and see them at 1-2, and Dallas looks good. And heck, Washington looks pretty good. So I think the Giants are a team that might be in some early trouble.
I thought the Giants and the Vikings, it was interesting that they played one another in the playoffs last year because I thought they're both paper tigers. They're both circumstantially good. We know the Vikings had that ridiculous point differential. They won every close game. And the Giants, Daboll did a great job of coming in there and changing the culture, and they deserve a ton of credit for it. But Danny Dimes was going into a prove-it contract situation. He did everything he possibly could. He's a talented player. There's no 2 ways about that.
Oh, he proved it.
Yeah, well, enough. But he proved it to the point where the second they signed the deal, I think a lot of us looked at it and went, there's a pretty high likelihood you're going to regret that. This guy's going to be making north of $40 million here in a couple of years. And I think the Giants and Vikings, I would pick both of them to miss the playoffs this year in the NFC. Those 2 teams made it last year.
Which is why I think my comment about the Packers being maybe that 5th team.
Maybe.
Because the Bears are already booing their quarterback. They don't look that great. And the NFC South, you could throw New Orleans in there as a potential team, and Tampa with a nice win.
Someone's
going
to
win
that division.
Correct.
Right.
But in terms of a second team, it feels to me like the 3 wild cards will come out of the West. The West should get, maybe a wild card,
Should
but
they?
somebody's got to be a wild card, Mark.
Yeah, somebody
Is
has
the
to be,
East going to get all 3?
No, I don't think
the East
that.
will get 1 or 2.
I think
the North might get 1, and then the West will get 1 or 2.
I think Green Bay is definitely a possibility. I think Washington is a possibility. Like if we all, Philly and Dallas, one of them is the wild card, one of them's the division champion. Again, we're guessing. This is only 1 week.
Sure.
But we thought that before week 1. We still do. So that leaves 2 other wild card teams. If my picks would be Detroit in the North, New Orleans in the South, the 49ers in the West, and there's 2 more wild card teams. Green Bay is definitely on the list. Sure. Could be Green Bay. Could be Washington. We'll see if the Rams are actually better than we thought they were going to be. Can Seattle bounce back? But I would pick Minnesota and the Giants to not be on the list.
Right, which is why I think Green Bay might be a team that you would look at. As for Daniel Jones, before we go back to the phones, they have an out at the end of next year, which would only result in a $22 million dead cap charge. Okay. So as much as Danny Dimes did get that whopper of a deal, he got $160 million. I believe 92 was guaranteed, and it was front-loaded. Unlike the Niners, who like to backload. You're looking real good once you backload that thing up.
Nice.
This one was front-loaded, so the Giants can get out earlier than they otherwise would. Earlier than Arizona can with Calamari.
I don't think they're going to be that Sunday night game is making people think that the Giants are like a total joke.
They may not score this year, Mark.
They got the ball on the opening drive and went right down the field.
And
then they took a sack, and then in the wet weather, they tried to kick a field goal, and everything went sideways from there.
Thank God for Jake Moody.
I don't think the Giants are very good. I do think Dallas is very good. This 40-0 thing, it's out of whack. It's out of whack. It's not that.
A block 6 and a fumble 6.
It's 16-0, and Dallas hadn't moved the ball an inch.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, we'll see. We'll see. We all of these teams, we got to see more. Joe in San Jose. Next up here, Willard and Dibs. Hey, Joe, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. I listened to the question that was posed, and I thought it was a fun topic. So I actually did the task, made my list, and my list ended up kind of mirroring yours there, Willard.
Let's hear the list.
I had pretty much the same 7, except I had 2 on there instead of Lawrence.
Okay.
But then I thought about it, and I was like, you got to be careful what you ask for, right? Because personally, I don't think you can plug and play any of those guys and it just be so seamless, right? I think that what we see here with Purdy is his relationship with Shanahan and how they've kind of molded together. I think it's downplayed and how great Brock really is. Brock is really great with the Niners because he fits Shanahan's schemes so well. And I'm not 100% convinced that everybody on that list, even though on paper might be better, would easily plug and play and do the same thing. I think that the nature of the relationship between Purdy and Shanahan, I think, matters. I think that, Brock was kind of like some raw clay for Shanahan, for him to mold the way he wants. And I think it's taking, and I think it's really, really good. And I would put Purdy as, I agree with you, in the 8 to 12 range of quarterback. I have him around number 10, personally, in the league. And I'm not so sure I'd want to switch that, even though I could get Patrick or Josh Allen or somebody like that. I'm not 100% convinced that it would just be better.
Yeah, Joe, that's a really good call. Thanks, man. Thanks for calling us. I also think there's a piece to this. No matter who you're a fan of, you're emotionally attached to him a little bit, right? That's your guy,
yes,
right? What comes to mind there, and we talked about this when I went on that Steelers pod last week, and they asked me the question about who would you buy into for the next 5 years, Purdy or Pickett? And I was like, I'm going to take Purdy just because I know how high the floor is. I don't know if he's a star. I don't even know if he's really, really good. But I know that he's not a total dud because of what he's already achieved in the league in a stretch of 7 to 9 games. He's got a really high floor. So I don't know that yet about Kenny Pickett. I'll take Purdy. They, of course, were like, wrong answer, Mark. The answer's Pickett. Why? Because they're wearing Steeler hats while we're doing this. And now,
in the preseason, Mark, he was amazing.
Well, and after one game, the question now sounds ludicrous.
Luda?
Purdy or Pickett? Are you kidding?
Right.
But we have to also acknowledge that that's the way we view things, and one game maybe shouldn't actually change things that much. And sure, we're attached to Purdy a little bit here because he's our guy.
And that's why I stand behind my list of 11, because I don't get caught up in emotion. I don't pander to the audience. I just keep it, Mark, one thing I like to keep it, I keep it real.
Which means that you're automatically putting him too low because by definition, it's negative. You're being negative.
That's you who thinks that keeping it real is negative. Okay?
It is.
Keeping it real is just keeping it real.
Brother,
I keep it so real.
I'm still waiting for you to give me that one example.
I've given you examples.
Of somebody who walks up. You walk into the office, right? You're there after the weekend, and you look, and oh my gosh, hey, Rhonda.
Why has it got to be Rhonda?
Are you losing weight? You look incredible.
I'm just keeping it real.
You're glowing. And someone else goes, yeah, you're keeping it real.
Absolutely.
No, you're keeping it real is like, hey, man, come here for a second. Come here. Come around the corner.
Rhonda, you need to stop wearing stripes.
You believe what the boss is doing to us? We need to gather together as a group, and we need to come down on this place. Yeah, Dibs. That's right. You're keeping it real.
Why's it got to be me? And I told you I'm pro the boss. You want me to keep it real?
Yeah.
I think the Giants have a great chance to make it to the wild card. I'm going to keep it real. My Giants, Mark. No, you don't. My Giants.
I'm going to the game tonight.
Guess who gets to start?
Sean Mania.
He gets to start.
Yeah. Let's go.
I'm responding to Ross Stripling's harsh criticism.
Or maybe he won't. I've communicated to Sean that he is starting, but I'm actually just kidding.